On today's ramble, we are talking about your technical stack. I'm just going to refer to it as your stack moving forward, but that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to get right into it because it's kind of a big topic. So let's get started. At my former MSP, we had a ton of backup devices with a particular provider. We had something like 200 or something of those things. And it was a good 90 or so percent of our clients had that particular backup appliance. And the other 10% for the most part we had sort of our secondary stack thing for the real small clients and those kinds of things. But we had this one client, one singular client that really liked this other product for whatever reason. I think because it was probably a little bit cheaper or something, but they liked this other product and they said, we really want to keep this. And we said, fine, you can keep it for this first year. But when we get ready to go ahead and renew the service with that vendor, don't do that. We'll go ahead and move you over to our stack backup product and we'll just move on from there. And they said, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And then fast forward a year later, they didn't do that. They said they wanted to keep their other product, and we said, I don't think so. I think this is going to be a problem because we had done some testing. We actually went and looked to see exactly how long it would take us to provide support for their one product versus the other 200 or so. And as it turns out, the daily activities were about the same for the one client versus the 200 other ones, right? So we decided that this is an untenable situation for us. And we said, look, here's the deal. You need to become stack compliant or we're going to have to charge you a little bit more because you're making us less efficient. And they said, how much more are you going to charge us? And we said, well, as it turns out, it's going to be a little bit more than it would be for you to switch over to our stack backup appliance. And they said, okay, fine. And they switched and everything was more or less happily ever after. Your stack is important, right? The whole point of having a stack is because you can support more clients with less effort, right? It makes you more efficient. And that's the name of the game in managed services. Anything that makes you become less efficient is not a place that you want to be because it's hard enough to being in this business, let alone doing things that we know are going to be less efficient over time. The idea is that you want to be able to measure how many endpoints any particular technician or your technicians in general can support. I like to see somewhere between 200 and 400, and those are active devices in your RMM. And if your techs can be in that between 200 to 400, I think you're doing a pretty good job. If you are less than that, you might want to dig into it a little bit because ultimately the name of the game is deliver the highest quality of service possible without burning out your staff, right? That's kind of the name of the game, and your technology stack will help you get there easier. The next logical question is, how are you going to define your stack? And the typical answer is you kind of figure it out, especially when you're getting started. But you're going to pick a number of different things, and you're going to swap them out over a little bit over time. But what you'll find is, especially as you try 2 or 3 or 4 different products over time, you're going to gravitate towards the ones that either are better bang for the buck, they're a little bit easier to manage, they honor the MSP space a little better. There's a number of reasons why you might pick something, but you're going to pick a number of products, and you're going to evolve it over time. It's never going to be completely static. So let's talk about what it means to actually define the stack and kind of what the core components are, because I think that's an important thing to consider. I like to consider the stack as sort of like this core stuff, and I'm going to talk about that here in a second, and kind of everything else, right? So this core stuff is really all about things like your networking products, right? Your firewalls, edge devices, your switches, your Wi-Fi, all of those kinds of things, all the stuff that kind of supports the backbone of your client's networks. It's things like your security stack, that's important. It's things like identity management, so Active Directory, Azure AD, Google's version of that, something like that, and backup products, right? Whether that's cloud or on-premise backups. And then the last thing here, that's kind of the core, is the productivity suite, right? So if you're a Microsoft shop, you're a Microsoft shop, and if you're Google shop, you're a Google shop, and you might ride the fence between the two of them. But ultimately, it's sort of those few things, right? So it's the network stuff, it's the backups, it's the security, it's the productivity suite, and it's the identity management, right? These 5 things for me are the non-negotiables, right? Those are the things that you don't deviate on. And what might happen is you bring on a brand new client and they're not stack compliant in 1 or 2 different areas. Here's the thing, is that if they're willing to become stack compliant with a roadmap and those kinds of things, cool, go with it. I wouldn't force everybody to switch on day one. It's important that you have a plan to become stack compliant because that's really important. A real quick sidebar on security is that if a client is not willing to take your security stack, I'm not sure you want them as a client. I think that at this point in time is just it's not worth the potential risk to you and your business or them and their business to have a client say, you know what, I don't really want the security stuff or all of your security products. I think that just is a core non-negotiable at this point. I wouldn't do it if it was up to me. So really having that being a component of the 5 is important. Now you have all this other stuff, right? All this other stuff that I talked about. Those are the things like the different types of machines they have, right? Maybe they have some Dell and some Lenovo and some HP or whatever, right? You insert other brand here. Maybe they have some line of business applications you're not the most familiar with. Fine, not the big of a deal. Other services, it's all of those other things, all of like the things that are like interesting and important but not critical are the things maybe you adjust over time. A couple things though that are worth thinking about. First one being, if it's hardware related, if you're thinking about endpoints, servers, all of the gear they have, is that they should be under warranty of some sort. There's a hardware issue, you deal with the vendor and you just move on. The second piece is that you want to make sure that all of their line of business applications have some sort of ongoing support and that you guys are on the support contract for them, that you can call up and get support from that vendor, right? Those are the two kind of caveats there. If they've accomplished both of those things, and maybe it's hardware warranty on everything, and if there's not hardware warranty when the thing fails, then you just replace it, kind of a thing. I might live with that. And then making sure that you have that line of business support is also critically important, I think, for you and your business and your efficiency of all the things, right? Because again, the stack is all about efficiency. All right, so then how do you sell the stack to your clients, right? That's kind of the next question. And it could be a little bit tricky, but a couple things come to mind. The first thing is you really are the IT expert. They brought you in for a reason. That's the reason why you're there. You are the expert in this field and they are not. So they should be trusting you to a degree as it relates to the different products and the services that you use and recommend to them. The second thing is you aren't really selling the stack, right? You're not selling them this product, that product, this product, that product. It's your company stack. It's this whole thing. This is how we do business. This is how we operate, and this is your stack, because every other MSP that's out there can do things a little bit differently, but this is the way that you do it, right? And you built the stack to help them reduce the risk to your company as well. You made the stack to make you more efficient, but also helps make them more efficient, right? All of these things are core to the value you bring to the client. And remember, you want to sell the value, not all these individual products, because anybody can sell them individual products. That's the easy thing. It's the selling them the value is the bigger piece here. Now, when you onboard a brand new client, right, there's going to be some sort of transition period. And the key here is that you want to have an agreement between you and the client about what that transition is going to look like. Are you going to swap out the firewall first? Are you going to do the backup second? What does that look like? And what does the timing look like? And what does the cost of that, all those things look like? And kind of work with them as you transition services to make sure that they understand what they're going to get from you and what you can expect from them as it relates to kind of agreeing to and moving these things forward. I think those pieces are really important for that transition period, because there's just a lot going on when you bring on board a brand new client, and trying to do everything at once could be a little bit of a shock to the system. So what do you do if a client decides that they don't want to become stack compliant for whatever reason, right? There's a couple options. Option one is you could do exactly what we did at my former company, is just charge them more to make you be less efficient, right? They can pay for that privilege for you being less efficient. Option two is, if you roadmap them and they're willing to move at some point, maybe if it's not on the timeline you prefer, but it's good enough, maybe you just go with it. Or the third option really could be, maybe they're not the right client for you. Maybe it's time to move on and let them wear out your competition a little bit, right? I'm not here telling you need to fire your clients that aren't willing to be stack compliant, but if they aren't willing to work with you on some things, I don't know, that might be an option for you. All right, so what happens when you need to swap a product out on your stack, right? Maybe the support's lagging, maybe the quality of the product has declined over time. Maybe they got bought by somebody you don't want to do business with, right? Those are all things that seem to happen from time to time. It's important to pay attention to the other products that are out there. I always like to think about having kind of a vendor kind of in waiting for especially some of those core products, right? So I think back to my former company. I always took calls from other backup vendors. I thought that was one of the most important vendors that we had a good relationship with. And I figured at some point we might need to consider swapping out to a different vendor because of one of a bunch of different reasons, right? And while I was not interested in switching at the time, I would meet with the other providers just to understand what the products look like. I think that's a good practice for you to consider as well. I think having a vendor in waiting isn't a terrible idea. But now when it comes to actually swapping products out on your stack, again, you've sold the stack to your client as your company stack, not these 15 different products. So if you need to swap something out, swap it out. Here's the thing. If there is going to be a potential issue where the client needs to know about it, because maybe they're going to get a pop-up, maybe there's going to be a little bit of downtime, maybe they're just going to notice. But tell them what's going on, because your clients don't want to feel like they're having IT done to them. That's a thing that I've heard a number of different times from clients in various walks of life. I think it's important that they don't feel like that you're just kind of like shoving IT down their throats. But at the same time, you need to communicate with them, and they need to be responsive to you to a degree to say, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and do some of these things. Right now, if you think about, as I record this video, it's March. You're not going to swap out a stack item at a CPA anytime in the near future, right? You're going to wait till the tax day is over, because if you did it now, they might come after you with the pitchforks. This is where you need to understand your clients to a degree, but it's okay to swap these things out over time, right? You want to do it when it makes sense, when you need to, but not like all the time. All right, with all of that, we talked about a bunch of stuff already, right? We talked about why a stack's important, right? It builds efficiencies and allows you to support more clients more effectively. How to define your stack, right? That core component thing first, kind of everything else secondary. The third thing is, how do you sell it to your clients, right? You sell it as a package. You sell it as your technology stack that helps them mitigate risk, be more efficient, and those kinds of things, and not a bunch of different products. Fourth, how do you deal with a non-stack compliant client, right? You either you charge them more, you have them roadmap into stack compliance, or maybe you ask them to move on. And the fifth thing is, how do you swap things out, right? Not willy-nilly, not kind of whenever you feel like it, and make sure you communicate well with your clients. If you handle your stack that way, I think you're going to be in a good spot. So as I look to wrap this video up, I want to thank you for being here. I also want to ask you to click the like and subscribe button. It does help me on the YouTube side of things. And really, I just appreciate you taking some time and letting me ramble on this video for you. So with all of that, thank you for coming on this ramble with me, and I hope to see you on the next one.